Hello, and welcome to another flight in X-Plane 12. This is still version 12.2.1, and following the stuttering issues in the previous video, I've reduced a couple of the settings in X-Plane. Hopefully, these small changes will make this a smoother video. Today's flight, from Denham, takes us over southeast Buckinghamshire, and on to Hertfordshire. Luton Airport, our destination, is just over the Hertfordshire border into Bedfordshire. During the First World War, RAF Denham was established as a cadet flying school. It was used again as a flying school during the Second World War. The first civilian parachuting club in Britain was based here, between 1955 and 1956. The airfield is now used for civilian, charter, and training flights, and also by film production companies. The railway runs to Aylesbury, Oxford, and Birmingham. Martin Baker was formed in 1934, initially manufacturing aircraft. During the 1940s, they went on to develop and manufacture aircraft ejection seats. They now supply seats to over 90 air forces worldwide. The M25 is a 117-mile-long, orbital motorway, encircling London. The M40 motorway runs between Denham and Birmingham. The Bulstrode estate possibly predates the Norman conquest, but the present house dates from the 1860s. The A40 road runs for 260 miles, between London and Fishguard, in Wales. The Chalfont Centre is the UK headquarters of the Epilepsy Society, formed in 1894. The open-air museum consists of historic buildings that were at risk of demolition and were then relocated to the museum. It opened in 1981. The tunnel for the controversial high-speed railway passes directly beneath Chalfont St Giles. The cottage of the poet John Milton is located in the village. Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be executed in the United Kingdom, is buried in St Mary's Churchyard, in Old Amersham. The railway through Amersham is served by mainline trains from London Marylebone, running through to Aylesbury, and the Metropolitan line of the London Underground. The Metropolitan line terminates at Amersham, but there is a branch line running to Chesham. Chesham is the furthest London Underground station from central London. We are now flying over Hertfordshire. RAF Bovingdon was operational between 1942 and 1972. Following closure, the site was used for film production, banger racing, and a Saturday market. Part of the site is now a prison, and a large area is now also a television studio complex. The railway station is on the West Coast Main Line, served by trains from London Euston to the Midlands. The Plough Roundabout, consisting of 6 mini roundabouts, is known locally as the Magic Roundabout. In December 2005, a major fire occurred at the oil terminal, leading to an explosion, said to be the biggest of its kind in peacetime Europe. It measured 2.4 on the Richter scale. The M1 motorway runs for 193 miles, between London and Leeds. Verulamium Park contains the remains of the Roman town of Verulamium and was occupied from around 50 AD until between 400 AD and 450 AD. St Albans takes its name from the first British saint, Alban, who was executed in Verulamium during the 3rd or 4th century. The airfield was active between 1916 and 1919. This section of the A1M is one of 4 upgraded sections of the A1, which is also known as the Great North Road. The A1 runs from London to Edinburgh, in Scotland. The A1000 formed part of the A1, Great North Road, prior to the building of the A1M. Hatfield House was built in 1611, and is currently home of the 7th Marquess of Salisbury. The oak tree is said to be the tree Queen Elizabeth I was sat under when she was informed that she had become queen. Rocket Hall is the former home of Queen Victoria's first Prime Minister, Lord Melbourne, who she often visited. We are now beginning our descent. Stagenhoe is an 18th century stately home, and is now used as a Sue Ryder care home. Luton Airport, also known as London Luton Airport, opened in 1938, and during the Second World War, it was used by the RAF as a fighter squadron base. The airport grew in popularity during the 1960s, thanks to the rise in the package holiday business. Today, it is the fourth busiest airport serving London.